Hey everybody, this is herculespetix, founder, curator, docent, and gift shop employee of the herculespetix Academy of Comic Book Studies. Today we're going to be looking at Way Out Strips, Volume 2, number 1 through 4. I don't know if this is technically called Volume 2, but this is the second series of Way Out Strips that Carol Swain wrote and drew. The first 3 issues came out from Tragedy Strikes Press. Tragedy Strikes Press, unfortunately, went out of business. They had a lot of great titles in their catalog, and Fantagraphics picked it up for these 4 issues. And it's a one-person anthology, and it's really amazing stuff. If you're not familiar with Carol Swain, very unique voice in comics. Nobody quite writes like her and draws like her, as you can see by this art. And let's check these out. I love the design of this comic. It's just very simple. You know, the black strip on top and bottom. Every issue has this wraparound cover, and it lists the titles of the stories, and beautiful Carol Swain drawing. I don't know, this coloring almost looks like crayon or colored pencils. Yeah, I don't think it's painted, but as you can see, Carol Swain just a very unique style. Definitely not flashy. It's more about telling the story. The art is basically a vehicle to tell the story, and the characters, bring the characters alive. Contents page, we start off with Looney Tune Life, and we see this guy, and he is shooting a phone book with a gun. He makes a hole in it, he opens up the book, and he says, okay, the kid's name is Anthony, no more arguments. So these parents, this is how they named their son. And then the father takes off. And now we see that young baby growing up now. And she's a really good writer. Her dialogue is amazing. It's always spot on. Puts a lot of humor in it too. You know, it's very just normal, everyday humor. It's not like zany, crazy stuff, you know. I like how he says, I guess it could have been worse. I could have ended up being called Acme Trucking. And so this guy's a juggler. He juggles knives in the public square for change. His buddy here is asking him about his act. And he does his act and makes some money. And at the end he says, I think I'll try fire eating tomorrow. And this is going to be continued next issue. Next we have Soul Trader. And this is also chapter 1 of a continued story. So the narrator, this woman, and she's talking to us, the reader. She's saying, hey, follow me. I'll show you where it all started. It was actually in this part of town. And this is where I sold my soul to the devil. I like how she says, I still don't know who got the better deal. See what I mean by, like, definitely not flashy art, just 9-panel grids, I think almost on every page. And, you know, she's just, she has this very kind of sparse, almost Spartan, you could say, way of drawing people. So, she takes us to this underpass, and now we have a flashback. And she was at a show, a punk rock show that was under this underpass. I like this. She says, odd lyrics. I remember this one about the Shah sleeping in Lee Harvey Oswald's grave. That sounds like a good song. I want to hear it. And then she looks over and she sees this guy. He points, basically like, follow me. And they go to the exit. And now, as in the modern day, she's showing us, the reader, the exact spot where he took her. Oh, I think it's on the roof or something. It's a very interesting thing Carol Swain does in all of her comics. She shows these planes zooming by in the sky, almost like cartoony. And they're just ubiquitous in her comics. And so she goes out there, and I guess this is the devil. Even though he doesn't seem at all like the devil, he even loans her his jacket because she seems cold. Now so that's going to continue next issue. We have Cargo Cult. This is a one-off. And I really like this one. It's almost like some post-apocalyptic sci-fi story where we see this father and son, and they're kind of like archaeologists wandering around, and they find an old drag strip car completely like calcified with, dirt and stuff. And they scrape away at it, and they see the cool, hot rod line art. And of course, this is called Cargo Cult because just like cargo cults where, primitive people get modern things if they drop out of a plane, they don't know what the original purpose was. They just think, wow, look at this Coke bottle. They have no idea that soda comes in there. They just think it's some weird glass sculpture, So they're basically trying to figure out, they're like, yeah, what do you think this, what was this thing for? And then they follow the tracks of the cars. And the father says, they all lead the same way back. Let's follow. And they get to this drag strip arena, or whatever you call it, a raceway. And they have no idea what the hell, what it is. They can't even fathom. Next, we have Samhain, and this is about a woman who returns to the small city where she grew up. I guess she moved away to like London or some big city. So now she's visiting back and, trying to reconnect with her roots, see some old friends. She sees this one guy, and I guess there was a huge flood in this town just recently. So the whole town's trying to rebuild. This guy kind of fills her in on all the crazy shit that happened during this flood. Look at these crazy clouds she draws. I actually found them a little distracting. I'm like, no clouds have ever looked like that. So the town's definitely seen better days. There's 2 bars left in town out of 15. She goes into one. It's like a boulder smashed through the jukebox because it was a really serious flood. And she sees her old friend Sam, Sam Hain of the title. He's playing dominoes with a friend. That's why she came to the bar. She figured he'd be there. This is his regular haunt. And they catch up. And he introduces Ruby. Ruby's the narrator. He introduces Ruby to his pal. She's feeling kind of bad because she kind of wanted to return in a blaze of glory. But it sounds like she hasn't really made much of herself in the big city and isn't doing that great. And there's all these caravans. Pretty much that's what English people call like vans. A lot of basically hippie type people in England, they just travel around in these vans and make their own little trailer parks, or mini van parks. She asks Sam about them, and he says, a bunch of losers. They're New Agers. There's one annoying thing that Carol Swain does that I really don't like. She has a very idiosyncratic lettering style, and her G's totally do not look like G's. In fact, they look closer to an S. So reading this, it was really annoying. So many times I had to stop and be like, what? Oh, that's a G, even though it doesn't look like a G. So they leave the bar, and they agree to meet the next day. And it's such a beautiful night, she decides to just go for a long walk. We have this little coming attraction page about next issue. And that's it for Way Out Strips number 1. Number 2, another cool wraparound cover. I also like, too, how these covers kind of relate to something inside. Like we saw a drag strip race in that first issue on the cover. But it's these two characters and this dog. And so they're almost like I don't know, not necessarily acting out the comic, but it's almost like some little stories going on here. Some weird thing with these two characters. Okay, so we start off with Soul Trader this time. And we're back at the flashback when she first meets the devil. He offers her a deal. He says, the best offer you'll ever get. My soul for anything I wanted. And she tells us that she couldn't think of anything she really wanted. I totally relate to that. And so it basically says, come see me tomorrow at this address. It's just so mundane. It's the most mundane selling your soul to the devil story ever. So it turns out the devil's name is Brian. So she's kind of become successful due to the pact with Satan. She has her own antique business, and she goes to check in at the her business. She has a bunch of employees. She goes into the safe and takes something out. And so now, I'm sorry. So as she's walking to Brian's place in the present, she's flashing back to the first time she went there. So she has sex. They end up in bed together. She said he wasn't that hot. He had a body like a baby or a cupid, a body like putty. Hardly the embodiment of evil. She almost felt like she was taking advantage of him. And he's just seems like this quiet, shy, sweet guy. And I kind of like the fact that he's not good at sex, because, you always think like, oh, if you fuck Satan, he's going to be the best lover ever, because he'll be all nasty and hot. But no, he's just doesn't really get into it. So I guess they kind of started seeing each other. And now, the present, she's visiting him again for the first time in a while. He invites her in. He's got these two giant planks of wood. And he says, could you tie me to this? I just want to see what the opposition felt like. Actually, he's just putting up shelves. It was a joke. That was a funny guy. So she's basically there just to say bye. She's saying, yeah, I'm heading to the United States. And she says, how are things going with you, Brian? He says, I don't know. I really can't be bothered with my job. It just gets me down, collecting all these souls. My heart's not into it. And he says, no one's got a fucking soul anyway. And it's so cold. So she says, close your eyes. I got you a going away present. And she leaves it on his stomach. And that'll be continued next issue. Next, we have another episode of Looney Tune Life. We see those two dudes, the juggler and his friend. They get on a bus. And there's a bomb threat on the bus. Everyone has to get off. And nobody leaves the area. All these people get off the bus. They just watch. They're like, oh, we got to see what's going to happen. And the juggler guy even says, like, what the hell are we standing around for? This is really dumb. They can go off any second. So the police show up, the bomb squad, and that's the end. Kind of a odd little episode. Next, we have chapter 2 of Sam Hain. So the narrator, she's walking around at night. Ruby. And she's having flashbacks to when she used to hang out with Sam Hain when they were teenagers. They were best friends. They'd cut school together all the time. and then get drunk. Skip school and get drunk. I like how her art is just, like this all charcoal and stuff and using pencil. It almost, it could be a dumb cliche. I've never even been to England, but it does seem like she'd be so good at illustrating 1984 by George Orwell. Like, it has that whole, like, England's this dingy gray place. The sun never comes out in England. And it just has that feel. Even when it's daylight, her style really seems English to me. Speaking as an ignoramus. So he's just a really smart kid, Sam, and he's a pagan, and just into cool shit. So, they're kind of best friends. One night they're out drinking and they almost have this, like, mass hallucination. Well, I don't know if mass is the word, a binary hallucination. And they see all of these school teachers that they hate, just kind of apparitions of them. And then Sam's father shows up, and he's in trouble. So her and Sam shared a house. Their families, there was this house that was split in two. Her family lived next to his family. And now in the present, actually I think, oh no, this is the past I think still. Nope, it's the present, sorry. So now she's getting back to town. She's been walking in on the outskirts. But she hears music coming from a distance. It turns out it's those hippie caravans, the hippie vans. And then she also hears like a scuffle. She hears the sounds of violence. And it seems like some townspeople, they're beating the shit out of these hippies. Like really savagely. And she falls into the river. She doesn't want to be seen by these guys. But she sees them, at least one of them, and it's Sam, her buddy. Okay, way out strips number 3. God, I love this design. Just sharp looking. Contents, and we have chapter 3 of Sam Hain. And so it continues right where we left off. She gets out of the river, she's all wet, and she runs back to her father's house. He still lives in town. And she's kind of freaking out. She's like, what am I going to do about Sam? And she tries to go to sleep, and she just can't help but seeing Sam, smashing this poor hippie's face in. She finds it odd because he was never violent when they were younger. When they were younger, they used to communicate with each other through the wall that divided the house. Their bedrooms, I guess, shared a wall. And they would tap a kind of Morse code to each other. So now we're back to the flashback when Sam's dad, caught them breaking curfew. He's got all bruises on his face. So we realize his dad's kind of abusive. So there's this, they see a lamb, and it's not quite dead. It looks like somebody slashed its throat. And she says, Sam, we got to do something. We can't just leave this poor creature out here to die. So Sam says, okay, I got a knife. And then she thought it was an act of kindness. Now, after what she knows about Sam, she says it looked like relish. So she's thinking back and like, maybe Sam always was kind of bloodthirsty. And now we're still in the flashback, sorry. And like I said, just really good dialogue, really believable, realistic dialogue. So both of the parents moved away from that divided house. We see all the rocks. There's just boulders everywhere when the river flooded. I kind of like that image. So she remembers back to the bar when they hung out, recently. And he started telling her a joke. He goes, a guy goes into a restaurant. The menu says deep fried banker, £5.50. Boiled teacher, £10.50. Crispy hippie, £30.76. So the guy says, waiter, why is the hippie more expensive than the others? And the waiter says, and it stops right there. She can remember laughing at the joke, but now she can't even remember what the joke is. Of course it's not. It has a different, more sinister air to it. Now that she knows he goes around beating up hippies. This next one's called Litter, and it's just about these two friends, and they live in Camden, and this guy's kind of a rake. He's kind of a funny guy, and they basically just went out drinking, and they're heading to the tube. Oh, I'm sorry, they decide to walk instead. And she hates Camden. Thinks it's a dinky town, and he says he loves it. This is just, basically that's all this is. It could be a one-act play. She tells him, she says, have you ever heard of the Camden garbage man? He's got an empty pizza box for a face, black bin bag full of garbage as a body. He only appears on Saturday nights and Sunday mornings. And supposedly he feeds on drunks. And this guy is kind of a blabbermouth. He's always, whatever, I don't know. He's kind of like spouting off. And so in the middle of his conversation, these two garbage men show up. And they grab him and they throw him in the garbage truck. And she says, don't worry, you'll be recycled. So it's just like absurd end. I kind of like that one. Next is chapter 3 of Soul Trader. And Brian, the devil, opens up his present. And it's like some old woodcut, an icon from the 13th century of an angel that fell to earth. The Archangel Saint Michael. So they have a kiss goodbye. And they say their goodbyes. So I guess the icon came from the Chernobyl fallout zone. So when everyone was ordered out of their homes in the Chernobyl disaster, art dealers snuck in to the area and raided every church and museum and stuff. And of course, she's an antiques dealer. She got them all for a song. So the art is kind of irradiated. Art with a half-life of 10,000 years. If they live long enough, my customers, the art will kill them. And now we see Brian, and he goes to sleep, turns off the light, and the icon's glowing in the dark. And then she once again talks to us, the reader. If you ever want to find the devil, look for the room that's lit, day or night. And that's how it ends. I don't know why I found this so charming. Just the most mundane portrayal of the devil ever. And you really, of course, are questioning, like, is he the devil at all? Did she just make this all up? Because it's not like owning an antique store is some amazing wish fulfillment, like, she sold her soul just so she could have a nice antique business. We have the coming attraction page, and that's it for 3. Now we got number 4. Once again, another wraparound cover. And this, unfortunately, is the last issue. So we start off with True White Brother, Basket Case History, Session 1. Unfortunately, we'll never find out what happens. Well, maybe she did continue this. I don't know. Because it's the last issue. So we see this guy. He's in therapy. The therapist says, you've been coming here for months and you refuse to talk. And I guess his brother died. And he has a kind of hallucination of his brother getting out of one of those drawers in the coroner's office. Those big filing cabinet type things where people are kept. And he tells Charlie, the narrator, he says, she's going to tell you it wasn't your fault. So, but he's like giving his brother advice. He's like, for God's sake, Charlie, just say something. She'll start thinking you're really crazy. I like how he puts the shroud back on his face and says, do me a favor, slide me back into the wall, will you? So I guess the brother had an accident, which we don't quite know about it yet. So he leaves. I guess this mental care facility, they're having a little craft sale. All the inpatients making little sculptures and stuff. He buys one, but he's an outpatient, so he doesn't live there. He's not stuck there like all these people. But he kind of knows them all these crazies. And he gets in the elevator and heads to the basement. And we'll never know what happened. Or maybe we do. Maybe Carol Swain continued it. Sorry, guys. My voice is so scratchy. Damn. Okay, The Good Mixer. And the narrator is with her friend, drinking. And she says to relieve boredom, to avoid talking. It wasn't working. I was still bored. He was still talking. So The Good Mixer is the name of this bar where they hang out. The only other two people in the bar are these refugees from a homeless men's shelter next door. The whole time there's soccer scores going on in the background. Wait, I don't know why I said that. I just totally made that up. It's not true. Or maybe it is, and I can't find the panel now. Yeah, her friend is just blathering on and on and on. She looks over at the two refugees, and one of them, an old man, he just keels over in his booth. And then she has this weird vision where she's dressed in a man's suit on this beach, the furthest point west in all of Ireland. And she starts sinking into the sand. And these two guys come and pull her out. So I'm not quite sure what this is. Because it's not like she fell asleep or something. It's not a dream. I have no clue. And then back to the refugees. The refugee's friend, the old man's friend, says, "You okay?" And he says, I nearly just died. I almost met my maker. And so, I mean, not a lot happens in this story, like a lot of these stories. It's just, once again, this could be like a little play. It's just this little character study of this woman, her thoughts. But she's so good at that. I love Carol Swain, the way she writes. I would love to read like a novel by her. Well, hopefully a graphic novel. So we have Sam Hain, chapter 4. This is, I believe, the conclusion. So our hero here, Ruby, she wakes up in her dad's house. Her dad is at the breakfast table. His wife left him, her mother, And he's in a bad way. Almost every night he goes out drinking, wanders around. But she finds, so she hasn't even seen him in a couple days, but he's here and she asks him about Sam. She says, Dad, I don't know what to do. And the father seems very unconcerned. In fact, he says, oh, those hippies, everyone's fed up with them. He says, if you don't like what Sam does, stay out of his way. Not the advice she was expecting from her dad. But she's not going to do that. She's going to confront him. So now she goes over to where Sam's hanging out. Or I'm sorry, she hears these other kind of young hooligans, you know, basically admitting to what they did. Or talking about the hippie incident. I'm sorry. Maybe they didn't do it, but, you know, they're basically saying, yeah, those hippies got what they deserved. And then all of a sudden, as she's walking, she sees all these cool albums on the ground. She sees the Beatles' White Album, Beggar's Banquet, After the Gold Rush, almost like a little trail. She was following them, and she finally makes it. It leads right to Sam's little trailer. And when she walks inside, one of them has a baseball bat. Someone has a baseball bat has to be stopped from clobbering her. And it's Sam. She's like, Sam, what the hell is going on? And her dad's there too. She's like, Dad. So I guess they literally left these records like a trail. It's almost like breadcrumbs for Hansel and Gretel. Well, not that, but they figured the hippies would find these albums and it would lead them right to this little place and they'd beat the shit out of them. So it's bait. And here's where the story gets so fucking weird. She basically sits down with them and Sam has his arm around her and he seems a little threatening. He's just like, relax, Ruby. You're not going anywhere, basically, you know? We have to wait. And she says, you know, the other night you were going to tell that joke? What was the punchline? And when the guy asked the waiter, how come the hippie is so much money? The waiter says, sir, have you ever tried cleaning one? That's a very good joke. But she kind of feels at ease all of a sudden. And she's drinking a beer. And Sam says, it's good to be together, isn't it, Ruby? Just like it used to be. And then Ruby kind of seemingly calmly just says, how long do you think we'll have to wait? If I assume for the hippies to come. And Sam says, wait for what? And that's it. That's the end of the 4-part story. I don't understand this ending at all. It's so odd because she is so angry at Sam and like really just like, I'm not letting this go. Sam's got to answer to, you know, for these crimes. But then when she shows up, she's just kind of like, oh yeah, okay. So you think the hippies will be here soon? And I'll watch you beat them up, I guess. Now here's a coming attraction. I guess Carol Swain, Fantagraphics, is going to publish like these irregular graphic novel size books of all of her stories. Invasion of the Mind Sappers. I don't know if this ever came out. I should have looked it up, sorry. But if you're curious, that's the title. And yeah, 72-page book. So if it did come out, I have to get it. I definitely want it. And I really want those Tragedy Strikes Press issues. I think only one story is reprinted from there in this series. So it's all, basically all new stories, or stories that aren't in this. So there you go, guys. Way Out strips, number 1 through 4, pretty much volume 2. So I didn't have any 1 through 3. I would have, you know, I always like to do comics all together, you know. But I'm probably never going to find those. So I figured I'd give you a taste of Carol Swain. We've already seen her in many anthologies we've looked at on this channel. She's in a lot of anthologies over the years. And always her contributions are always very looked forward to. And I really love her stuff. So hope you guys, I was going to say, hope you can find this. I'm pretty sure you're going to find it next to nothing. I'm pretty sure I got these out of quarter boxes back in the 90s. And I haven't even told you guys, this came out in 94, this series, maybe 95 too. So, yeah, it's good stuff. And just very literary, very quiet, interesting comics. So that's it. I guess I'm rambling once again. Thanks for watching, guys. And hopefully I'll see you next time here at the Herculespetix Academy of Comic Book Studies.